Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure here to share with you the session, Living Labs in Complex Rural and Coastal Landscapes, Connecting Knowledges to Action, which results from a collaborative group of universities from Indonesia and the Netherlands. Dwina, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and also good afternoon. Selamat siang, and welcome to our presentation today.
Ja, welkom naar de Nederlandse partners of de Nederlands sprekende partners in deze sessie. Our session will, I think we fit nicely with the common theme on building a sustainable future. And for those of you who were in the previous session on transformative education for a sustainable future, you heard similar discussions we may link to as well, although we are very specific looking at the Living Labs. And we are doing so with a group of colleagues. Please make yourself known. With whom are we here?
Hello, my name is Jan Freevoet. I work for the University of Applied Sciences van Halle Lagenstein. I'm a senior researcher for the for the research group Communication, Participation, and Socio-Ecological Learning.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tia Lairing, and I'm connected to the Living Lab Enrekang in South Sulawesi. Um, we work with the government and also to address the soil degradation and deforestation. And the Living Lab Enrekang also have a flagship, we call it Digital Farmer Field Schools, a tablet-based application used for farmer groups and extension worker to share knowledge and also share solutions that fit with their local realities. That's a short introduction from myself. Over to others.
Okay, maybe I can introduce myself. So my name is Rico Lee. I work at Wageningen University in the Netherlands. And I'm involved in different living labs in the sidelines, and we're doing research on the running of living labs actually. So thank you.
Okay, I will continue it. Hello, I'm Tri Ratnaningsih Suprapawati from Diponegoro University. We are developed Living Lab in Bedono, that is in Central Java, collaborative platform that connect research, education, and community action to strengthen coastal resilience. It applies also NBS to address coastal erosion, tidal flooding, and ecosystem degradation. So through participatory approach, the Living Lab integrates science, local knowledge, and innovation to restore mangrove, enhance livelihood, and promote sustainable coastal management, turning Bedono into a model for community-driven climate adaptation. Thank you.
Okay, so I also like to refer to our colleague Peter van der Maas, who couldn't be with us because he's doing fieldwork on peatlands, and actually that's a major focus in the Living Lab in Friesland and in several other projects. With the group of colleagues you see over here, for several years we are now doing research on living labs, which is both, of course, academic research, but very much based on the case studies as we experience in our living labs. The basis for this one is, for this session, has been based on recent fieldwork we did together in the month of July. And of course, we are very interested to know the audience who is with us. What are your experiences with the Living Lab approach? So you may see now the poll, and you have seen our colleague Ilse. She is also managing the chat and the poll, so feel free to come up with any questions, suggestions. And for now, please fill the poll. And as you are filling in the poll, we move ahead with, of course, the basic question, what are living labs and how do we define living labs? And if we look at living labs, we have to realize that it's somehow a contemporary term. It's a new term. It's popular because we see over 3,000 publications in the past 5 years in the Scopus system, but it's also popular within a variety of funding schemes. At the same time, we see why is it popular? We see it's popular because it's living, so which refers very much to the reality. It is about issues in a real life setting. We can't hide anymore behind the walls of our academia as the world is dealing with such a complexity of problems, and also because the complexity of these problems is defined by conflicts over resources. It's no longer possible to do what everybody wishes to do. So we are searching for new concepts, and we also therefore say we have to focus, we have to feel accountable. What do we then co-create? How do we work together? What methods can we use to achieve a real multi-stakeholder participation, and not just for the sake of participation, but really achieve user involvement. Now, do we have the results of the poll? Leah? No. Dwina, have you seen the results of the poll?
Sorry, I cannot. I haven't seen the poll.
Oh yeah, maybe it's in the chat.
Yes.
It's not in the backstage chat. Then we continue and we wait for Ilse to put the results also in the backstage. Maybe to further proceed with indicating our research in the next slide, I'd like to share that our research over the past years, what we did, we also tried to make sure that we don't only have project documentation, and not only student internship reports, but we try to come to publication which can be shared and used. And what we have seen, there has been a very important publication, which is a literature review, where we worked on to gain this overview and also in a comparative view between Living Lab and innovation platforms. Another important article, and you will see them in the chat, the full references, links to a comparison of living labs in Indonesia and the Netherlands, which interestingly turned out not to be so much about national differences, but we have basically similarities in issues at academic level if we look at it from our position as higher education institutes. And also you see Leah here presenting a paper at the International Association for Media Communication Research, who is presenting, looking also at dilemmas in terms of governance and how to address dilemmas of continuity. So, Dwina, have you seen the poll, the results of the poll by now?
Yes. So we have to vote for interested with limited experience and two of them doing research, one combination of the above. So, and then no one working with living labs. Thank you for the poll.
Oh, that is interesting. So, because we really welcome to newcomers, but we also, it's our ambition to share this further, because a basic aspect, what we see in our work popping up, what is a major result, is the fact that we see that for us we can do projects, but for the people involved, the aspects of confidence, aspects of what. And maybe Leah can talk about of social capital are really very important to address. So what are our motivations in researching rural and coastal living labs is therefore the fact that even though we hope that with this new approach, we managed to address serious and complex problems, yeah, on which people's livelihood depend, on which long-term sustainability aspects do depend, that we can address these. But unfortunately, we see it's not very easy, and it's not a promise at all that we manage to achieve a happy end. Yeah. A second aspect in this, in our motivations, is that we felt, well, a framework for analysis to really be able to compare different experience, so to stay away from a lot of anecdotal documentations of living lab experiences. We need to elaborate a framework to be able to model the work, what we are doing, or to define or conceptualize, and also to position where we are. And that is really that we feel it's our accountability, being in the academia, that we have to gain insight on living lab dynamics. And of course, I'm here talking on behalf of Van Hal Larsen University, on behalf of Wageningen University, and partly also attached to Hasanuddin University. We are talking about the situation in rural and coastal living labs. That's where our major experience is. Of course, we wonder if it differs from other situations, but that's where we do have specific expertise. And I like to hand over to Rico now to introduce how we did elaborate, yeah, based on our research, a three-dimensional framework for analysis.
Yeah, thank you, Luz. Like Luz already mentioned, we have been working for quite some years now to try and get a grip on the running of living labs. And actually, we developed this three-dimensional framework to get this grip on the running of living labs. This framework has been developed based on the previous publications, where we also identified different design principles for the running, and we came up with this three-dimensional framework, which is a bit simplified, and it consists of three dimensions: so the system, the collaborative action, and the approach. And maybe we can just walk you through that. So the first is the system. It's a systems approach, and the system addresses the characteristics of the socio-ecological system, which besides the ecological and the social subsystems includes governance areas. So the systems approach, systems thinking is quite common nowadays. But here we try to include also the historical development. So how has the system come about, as well as the governance and the policy context in which these systems are running. So the system is one of the dimensions. The second dimension is collaborative action. And as you can see here, the Living Lab involves various stakeholders and focuses especially on user participation. So, of course, users are one of the stakeholders, but what we envision is that users are involved based on a rights-based perspective, right? If the users, they have the right to be involved if it is actually about them. But of course, the users are not the only stakeholders, and the different stakeholders need to collaborate in these living labs. And there's not one way that goes for all the living labs. Every living lab is specific, and therefore it's quite important to zoom in on the third dimension, which is actually the approach. So the approach means that a living lab will not run by itself. It needs to be facilitated, coordinated, and the stakeholders need to be brought together in order to be able to collaborate. So what we think is important in this approach is that we identify different roles in living labs to run. And again, these roles are not set in stone beforehand. But there are roles like enablers, facilitators, coordinators, mediators, funders, etc. So a living lab needs to be designed and facilitated in order to run well. So these are the three dimensions we now work with. Thank you, Lustrina.
Yeah, thanks, Rico. And I think also with your indication of the different roles we need to make sure that we get our activities and actions organized, but also to clarify who is doing what and who has to feel responsible for what. That also brings us to the next theme of Living Lab Dynamics, that it's not a project that simply evolves. So, Leah, handing over to you to address this aspect of our common research line. Oh, please, can it go back one more slide, Hua?
Yeah. On this, the Living Lab dynamic, as mentioned by Rico, and this is again that's echoing what Lu's saying, that this is not an happy ending process. It's an up and downs, that sometimes we go and then we have to go back again, reframing and reorientations. Even sometimes we have to start and making sure that it's aligned. And as taking the life cycle perspective is actually this living lab is not a it's a non-linear process. And I think it's just important to note from the beginning that it's involved series of back and forward processes, because it's involved people with different perspective, people with different goals, and we have to align that. As that's where the facilitation process and the enabler processes is required in this. And another aspect of this as well, from our experience, is that even like a living lab that we started with high ambition, with everybody who was motivated to join, but it's also facing some kind of uh, stagnation, where we need to pause and think again, or how we reformulate and how we reactivate, and as well as how we rebuild again the foundation. That's something when, because it's very dynamic, the people will, because we face some kind of turnover staff, or changing of the dynamic and environment, and that's require another a set of facilitation, bring people again. And of course, this is something that will give us some we learn that we need a system of mechanism of preserving institutional memory, so we can continue even if we start like reformulation or reactivation, but the memory is there that we can use as a starting point. I think, Luz, I'll send back to you.
I have to switch on the audio. Thanks, Leah. It's nice to hear and to see the modeling of Living Lab Dynamics, because it also once again underscores our responsibility that we just can't start in a project, but that we have to consider previous activities, sentiments, and how people experience a variety of aspects. So now that we have introduced our framework with the three dimensions, yeah, combined with a life cycle perspective, yeah, we like to go back to the challenges we see, and based on our observations and our research in the living labs, we start now reflecting on the different dimensions, and we will start with the system dimension. Hello. Who was it? It was Tree or Leah, I think.
I think me, but okay, that was me. Thank you, Luz. Okay, so I would like to provide reflecting on the system how the living lab is well applied in the coastal area. So rural living labs often face complex challenges in a coastal area as multiple resource system, agriculture, water, environment, and ecology intersect and overlap, creating contrasting interests and policy arenas. Managing these interconnection domains require balancing diverse stakeholder priorities from farmers to local communities to policymakers and researchers. Moreover, living lab environment are inherently dynamic. Social relationship among actor and organization continually evolve as a program are initiated, reshaped, or discontinued. A systematic perspective is therefore essential, one that distinguishes between the enabling space, institutional, social, and policy framework, and the living lab activities where actors collaborate through physical and virtual engagement to co-create and implement solutions. Next, please.
Yeah, we proceed with the Living Lab reflection on the system. Tree, please continue.
Yeah, thank you, Luz. In Bedono village, Tema, several interrelation challenges shape the living lab's approach and outcome. Flooding and tidal inundations that in the local language call it ROP has become chronic, disrupting livelihood, infrastructure, and settlement patterns in coastal area. Increasing hydrological uncertainty driven by climate change impact such as sea level rise, extreme rainfall, and periodic drought further complicated local adaptation effort. In addition, governance fragmentation with multiple institutions and stakeholders pursuing different agenda and timelines, often resulting in misaligned priorities between short-term emergency response and long-term resilience strategies. This overlapping physical and institutional pressure underscore the need for integrated participatory and adaptive management framework that the Living Lab Bedono seek to advance through nature-based solution and co-creation process.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Uh, can I continue or yeah?
I think if we are done with the system, if you're done with this slide, we can proceed to the next one.
Okay.
Have you finished, Tree?
No, just one more things that the experience from Living Lepedono highlights that water functions simultaneously as a vital resource and persistent threat within coastal social ecological system. Addressing these dual dynamics require acknowledging that the challenges are not only technical, involving hydrology, land subsidence, and pollution, but also profoundly social, encompassing issue of equity, participation, and governance. Sustainable progress therefore depend on the capacity of living lab to integrate NPS with livelihood diversification and policy alignment, ensuring that intervention enhance both ecosystem integrity and community well-being. Such integration position Living Lepedono as a model for adaptive, inclusive, and science-based pathway toward resilient coastal future. In
Yeah.
the context of Living Lepedono, NBS include effort like mangrove restoration, sustainable aquaculture, and green infrastructure, which aim to reduce coastal flooding, enhance livelihood, and strengthen ecosystem resilience. Thank you, Luz.
Yeah, thanks, Tree. I think it's also nice that the passion we hear with you. It's for us struggling to bring all the experience together in a little bit more than 1 hour. And I hope the audience starts understanding that it's not a theoretical endeavor we are talking about. If Tree talks about flooding issues in Bedono, we were with our feet in the water last July, similar as in Upper Chitarum region. You see there the impact of the problems with the water and the amount of contaminations. And in Sulawesi, farmers themselves are struggling. How do we manage to produce sufficient to sustain our families? Well, we also see the deforestation, the landslides, the river pollution, etc., etc. So, what we are going to do now, we are going to, from Semarang, we are moving to Bandung. And I hope, Dwina, you're still connected to
Yeah.
reflect on the dimension of collaborative action.
Okay, thank you very much, Luz. Yeah, I think we starting the living labs on river water management on Upper Citarum River on 2017, and then at the times we are doing this living labs activity because we already have struggling from the water quality and how to clean the water of Citarum River since 1999, I think. And then we already have several projects on this river, and then but the progress is not so good, I think. And then at the last project is on national project. The name is Citarum River, and at first we try to work together on living labs. Involving the community and also the industry, and then also the local government, especially the Environmental Protection Agency office in the level of provincial. And then we try to work together. It is we have many activities, I think, and but at the end of this Citarum River program, we realized that the result of this program is not as we hope. I think a lot of the target that we cannot achieve, and also I on last July we tried to have a workshop involving all of the office in the level of provincial that related to the program Citarum Harum River, this program. So it is show that it is internal communication between the office of in that related to program of Citarum River Harum. It is very sketchers, I think, and that's the challenge of the how to have same vision and goals between all of the offices in the level of provincial to have good collaboration, including how they manage the program that they did in each of their offices, and then how they have an indicator of successful from each of offices that in the level of this provincial. So I think it is important for us as an academia that we can collect all of the information and the target, and then the program that the strategies that they already elaborate to manage the same river to be more clean, and how to have a recovery. So because we have a problem of the domestic pollution, and it is becoming the responsible of the office of the housing settlement. So it will be involving a lot of offices in a level of provincial. So it is, I think it is a very good experience that we have that we can hear from the the all of the offices in the level of provincial of West Java, and then we can identify the gap between the communication between each of the offices. I think so. That is important, that we have a different uh, role in the communities, in the as an academia, and also as the local government, I think. So next slide, please. I think, yeah, I think so. That this is with different stakeholder and a different position of the stakeholder related to the river management. I think this is we have to identify more clear how to give an intervention, how this office can give intervention to the river water management, and then how we can collaborate and communicate between these offices. So uh, it is very challenging for us how to be how to have the the result of the living lab. It is not only voicing the problem from the community, also we can identify clear what is the community need for their livelihood based on the Citarum River management. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Leah, would you like to add on this slide with your experiences at the Living Lab Enrekang? The previous slide, please. Yeah, Leah.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah. Um, yeah, especially on the approach on the what do you call, on the participatory method. I would also, as we shared in the chat, the paper that we share is actually like from Citarum and Enrekang, especially in my case in Enrekang district. The participatory approach that we are trying is not only to listen of what farmer wants, but we also involve them, especially in the prototype testing of DFFS. Farmers will actively propose new features and improvements, showing that the participation can directly shape this innovation. And I think um, another experience of this approach as well, because we know from the beginning that the collaboration in Living Lab is not easy, because of these different people with different goals, but and it's very complex. So that's why we need, as I think Rico mentioned before, that the different roles and expectation idea, we need to be clear from the beginning on what success looks like. And I think the experience also reminds us that the Living Lab approach itself is not about having fixed answer. It's about navigating risks and negotiating roles, and also creating genuine space where people move from being heard and truly having voice. And can I continue with the next slides, Luz?
Yeah, Leah, I think it's nice because you start exemplifying also this, where the term lab in Living Lab stands for on experimentation and co-creation, as you were referring to the prototype testing. Yeah, yeah. So yes, please proceed, and we have this slide in that context as well.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, again echoing that Living Lab does not move in the straight line. We often start with strong motivation and shared ambition, but in the process it can be messy, and to me it's unpredictable, because progress might slow down, shift directly, and or even look back before moving forward again. This is the case of what we see in Enrekang, for example. So um, And why this happened? It is because of the collaboration brings people and institution with different goals, because we work with different institution partners, and this institution also have their own priorities and capacities, and it takes time to align this and keep everyone engaged. For example, in Living Lab, like Living Lab Enrekang had to pause for sometimes to realign its activities to match with newly elected government priorities before continuing its work. So the takeaway message here is like facilitating a living lab, therefore, it's more than managing tasks or project, as Luz mentioned. It's not just an ordinary project, but it's about keeping relationships strong, maintaining trust. This is relates to the social capitals, because relationships strong, maintaining trust, and helping the group learn and adapt together along the way.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. And now that we see it's in this messiness, in this fuzziness, in aligning with the reality of the lived experience in the rural and coastal landscapes where we are, we consider what is our role, what is our perspective of higher education. And Jan, please will you add to this topic?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Luz. I will continue on this topic on the role of higher education institutes in living lab processes. But there was also maybe a question in the chat, and the question was, maybe I will answer that first. What is the difference between living lab and participatory action research? I think our framework really helps in this, but the Living Lab is you could say a strategy, a approach, and participatory action research is really a method you can use within Living Labs. So if you look at our framework, we have presenting at the moment, so system, collaborative action, and then the approach. Within the approach, you can choose for a participatory action research method. Besides a lot of other matters. I hope this clears a bit about the question was in the chat. If there are more questions, please add to the chat. We'll go back to the role of higher education institutes in living labs. Higher education institutes often play an important role in enabling or facilitating living labs. That's also what we see today in our living labs, and we discussed today. And what we also see in higher education, especially in educational programs, still have a main emphasis on development of knowledge and skills, and focus on empirical research, in which real-life environments, communities are regarded as research objects or contexts. And this type of orientation will discourage stakeholders or other actors to actually participate and learn in transdisciplinary processes, and will frustrate the transformative sustainable change in these regions or in the living labs at hand. For example, in the Master River Delta Development, students participate in living labs to learn in practice about the real life societal challenges. However, this means also that we need to teach them how to act in living labs, or how to facilitate joint learning processes, to stimulate reflexive learning, etc. Or in other words, with the competences needed to participate in living labs are often not part of our curricula or courses or modules we give. Therefore, we said we need to elaborate more on the role and responsibilities of higher educational institutes in living labs, which also is needed to co-produce knowledge for transdisciplinary living labs activities with a change orientation. I want to discuss another challenge as well. What we encounter as well is the static curricula and learning objectives often of students, and how to adopt these to the more dynamic, flexible activities within a living lab process. For example, are students available in the summer period? Students often get an assignment for maybe 3 to 4 months, but how to keep continuation in this in the living lab process? And can students play, for example, a role in the monitoring of living labs? These are questions we want to further explore by making use of the Living Lab framework, so the system, the collaborative action, the approach. And hopefully, this very short introduction, you got a bit of an impression of the institutional participation in Living Labs, which contemporary challenges of learning design in higher education. Thank you.
Okay. No. Jan, thanks a lot. And I think that there is more to say, but first we like to connect with our audience. We see there are 93 people amongst here, so there are more questions. Dwina, over to you. Oh, I don't know, because Dwina was having some connectivity
Oh,
issues.
sorry.
Dwina.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think we already hear the Living Lab in several locations in Indonesia and also in Netherlands. Think so. Do you have any? Can you recognize or identify what is the challenge that you already uh, experience in your Living Lab experience? Thank you.
Yeah, so after all this talking by us, we hope now that our audience, please, would you formulate what challenges do you recognize? It could be any of the challenges. Of course, we are an audience basically composed of academics, but at the same time that if we link it to what we are experiencing in our research team, we do have these different roles. So you can have a role as a researcher looking at research on Living Lab, but most of us are also engaged in education. So what if Living Labs become an approach in your education, or when you are a teaching designer, how do you integrate it in a curriculum as explained by Jan, which also comes with its complexity, because do we organize the Living Lab for education, or is education aligning with Living Lab experiences? We sometimes have roles, yeah, as part of the enablers when we manage to get funding for a Living Lab, and so on and so on. So please share with us your questions. We hope to have time towards the end of the session to discuss your questions and possible answers. Now, if we go to the state of the arts, we have a slide, the next slides, where we like to share with you where we are. And I start going back to Dwina. Please, Dwina.
Yeah, I see. Thank you, Luz. So, yeah, I think for the living labs, I think we need we need to have modeling. I think, and then uh, we use a very multidimensional framework and multidiscipline. I think so. It is very important to have to produce a good model about the living labs, so we can have more clear the definition about the living lab criteria, I think. And then if you use the living lab approach, I think we need look at the life cycle of the living lab. So we cannot just have a 1 year research and then we will have the result and we have the conclusion about the living lab. So it is the living lab is very dynamic because it is involving a lot of people, a lot of stakeholder, and all the different multidiscipline. I think so. It is we need a very cycle approach to make a more a good model about the living labs, I think. And then I also it is also important to design the principle that necessary for facilitating and enabling in a living lab. I think so. It is we need this concrete design principle that we say that it is how to facilitating a living lab in to solve the or to uh, have research in the field, and we know which one that we have to enable as a role model or some anything. And then as a higher education institution, we have to, yeah, it is very important to address transdisciplinary skills and competence in the curriculum. So I think my experience, I think in our curricula, I think now we uh, have a highlight in the sustainable development goals, and we need for the sustainability, I think the living lab approach is very connected and related to to uh, design a good curriculum that will support the or support, or also we can use the living lab approach to develop our curriculum.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Duina. It's interesting to hear this. So this is where we stand, and I think indeed the design principles is something within this team. As we are here, we talk about a lot. Rico, this is one of the aspects in the publication, the CGIR publication. Can you add to what Duina has been telling us?
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Yes, in this publication, actually, we identified different design principles under the headings of system and collaborative action and approach, just to guide these kinds of interventions that run for a long time, and to come back to that question also about the difference between participatory action research and living labs, this is also one of the major differences. As Jan already said, participatory action research is actually a methodology, being part of the container of doing research, where living labs, they are actions or interventions running for a long time to achieve some kind of change. And to achieve these change, we need guiding principles. And what we did in that publication is come up with these principles, and participation is one of these principles. Coming to action is a principle. Doing research, all types of research, is necessary also to come to these kinds of actions. So to run you briefly through these principles. So on the systems level, is thinking systemic, generating appropriate space for change, and working in a context-sensitive way. So these are the three principles on the system. And then on the collaborative action, the facilitation comes back again. That's an important one. The facilitation of stakeholder participation, all kinds of stakeholders, and then specifically again the participation of users in it, what we talked about previously. And the trust was coming back as a principle. So building rapport and govern the responsibility is also an important principle on the collaborative action. And then finally, on the approach, we also identified the three principles. So this co-creation is a principle that we have also been discussing already. Innovating through reflexivity, working in a reflective way. A reflexive way is an important principle, and of course, engaging with scale and impact is a final one. So
Now,
back to you. Yeah.
yeah, thanks, Rico. This is the result of our common living lab research, and I think Leah, maybe to add to this, because you in Enrekang, the application of the design principles regarding the digital farmer field school has been quite received some focus. Can you add your experience to this?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Luz. Yeah, to that, in the DFFS Enrekang, because we established the local design theme, and this local design themes is composed of transdisciplinary theme from relevant government institution and university. So they are together. Constructed the design principle of DFFS, which built around inclusive design principle, what Rico's mentioned, and concept of interface usability based on the different type of access of digital technology models, and also one of this is responsible innovation criteria. And because this is a digital farmer field schools, the principles of farmer field schools is also one of it. But as a living lab itself, they also establish or agreed with the shared, to say, ethical standard, that this ethical standard that bind all the stakeholders that collaborate together. uh, we do not want to disappoint farmers. It's actually coming that it is not a project based, the living lab itself is not a project. We are not working on digital farmer field schools as we are running toward a time frame of the project, but we want to make sure that the initiative is truly or genuinely address the need of the local or the users. I think that's the translation of this big design principle that Rick was mentioned, and we translate it into how the FFS was built around. Luz, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. I think this the ethical standard, as you called it as well, that you don't want to disappoint farmers, shows indeed that within our group, as we are presenting this session, there is this care for disappointment, for reducing social capital, etc., etc. A similar ethical standard was noticeable when we joined the fieldwork in Bedono village last July with Professor Tree. She really managed to get lots of students involved in the fieldwork. They had different ideas, but please, Tree, can you share with us something about the transdisciplinary skills you try to motivate, to stimulate with your students?
Okay, thank you, Luz. So I sent 45 students to have internship program in Petrono for 45 days. They're living with the local people facing the problem and try to find out the solution. And their background from different, from engineering and then economic law and then vocation, as well as from biology and from public health and others. And what happened and make me very happy is that across multiple disciplines, integrating knowledge, method, and perspective to address complex problems, and they have the skill to interconnect a world where challenges often require collaboration and innovation approach. And what they already apply is how they try to combining knowledge and methods from different fields to tackle complex problems, and then working effectively with people from diverse background and expertise, and then understanding the interconnectedness of social, environment, and economic systems, and generating novel solution and approach to address complex challenges. And the last one is adjusting to new information, perspective, and contents. And they try to addressing complex real world problem that require input from multiple disciplines. And by the project that I have developed, and the student try to coordinating and leading projects that involve diverse stakeholder and expertise during the field work when we have a big replanting or rehabilitation mangrove student, and then elementary students, and then my student from university, local government, as well as local people. And I also invited private sector bank to go together, and then we try to save the environment, save Bedono, that avoid them from flooding. So by effectively conveying ideas and results to various audience, and addressing environmental challenges through a holistic and interdisciplinary approach. That is what we have done, and student happy, local communities happy, governments officer happy, and of course, I'm very happy about that. Thank you, Luz.
Yeah, thanks, Tree, for your enthusiasm. Although we have also witnessed it's quite an achievement. Eh? It's most often hard work, and in the mud. It was in the boat, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We like to move now to the next step, because all these experiences we have in the actual living labs, with trying to get students on board, trying to get other partners on board. So the next step, as a group, we are doing this research, but well, we don't know. Of course, again, we have our own funding challenges, etc. But we know where we are, and we know what next steps are, where our focus is. Please, Duina, let me go back to you to start addressing our next steps.
Okay, thank you. So it is, yeah, the next step that we want to do is how to deal with a dynamic of governance and policy integration. So it is in usually we have some connection with the government, local government, and then in my experience, we have a lot of opportunities. I think to have this. I think we can involve the government, local government, in our research as a team in our research, so we can have an access to the how to integrate the policy in between the local government, between inter office, different office in the local government. So it is very important strategies. I think how to we can understand the dynamic of the governance in that governance as a stakeholder for our living labs. I think so. Sometime in the governance, we have uh, they will have the very uh, fast changings of their staff. Sometimes their staff will go to another office, and then we will have we will lost the link between the government. So it is important for us as a higher education to have a good collaboration with between institution in the local government or the national government, I think. And then the next is how to deal. We also want to deal with the uh, dependency of the funding for the continuity of our living labs. I think so. It is usually we have in from the higher education, the ministry. I think we have an opportunity to have the short-term funding cycles, but I think it is important to also have more long-term long-term uh, funding. So we have research that is sustained because the living lab, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it is not short-term. Result that we can get from the our activity. So it is important to have to develop a strategy how to have the sustainability of our activity or research in the living lab, and also we have to uh, yeah to we have to have expertise to balance between the tension between the funding requirement with the shared responsibility. I think usually for the more technical funding, we get the funding for 1 year, and then after the 1 year, we will have the result, and it should be in the outcomes. They will ask about the publication in a journal. It is, I think, we have to develop more strategy how to deal with this kind of funding requirement, I think. And then think yeah, it is how to explore the design principles and new professionalism in a living lab approach. I think so many research or activities that they mention it is a living lab approach, but I think it is very diverse between the different discipline, and also sometimes we will have a different principle or design framework of the living lab. So I think it is very uh, important to facilitate and also develop a learning design that we have the same approach about our definition about the living lab that we will uh, do in to be implementing in the field. I think so. Thank you, Luz. I will be give it back to you again.
Yeah, thanks, Dwina. And I see time flies, isn't it? When you try to really share what with the audience what we are doing. There are three more points. There's the point of voicing versus listening. For many years, also focus on participation was with a basic idea of voicing, whereas now we are also focusing on aspects which, of course, connects to social accountability. To what extent are we listening? And I think it's important what Rina also says. We may end up in different projects and different project proposals. In our case, what we also see when you have a kind of open-ended description of a living lab project, that's very hard to get finance because as we are in the natural science and in environmental engineering, very often the donors like to know on forehand what are results we are going to publish. So this is for us still something we continue to discuss. Also, that means that these aspects of community engagement in a living lab approach are how to balance the different mandates, the different power positions of stakeholders in a living lab. And that's also a complicated one because you get closer to almost to aspects of politics. And normally that's where we stay away from in the academia. So still there is much research to do, yeah, and a practical one is indeed searching for funding for our research. We also like it to have opportunities to share it. In that sense, we were quite enthusiastic about the new winner conference, and thanks also to stage managers and everybody who made it possible for us to share where we are at this moment. Now, I'd like to go back to the other colleagues over here who like to add, or do we have any more questions in the audience?
Same silence from the audience, no additional questions.
No more questions. Leah, you can compliment by all means, I think, something. There's much to say about Enrekang.
Yeah, again, that what we have started, it's something that really uh, become it's owned by the people, but we as an enabler, we still have to continue and prove how it works. So then our partner could see the benefit of collaborating or the transdisciplinary approach they will be bring in, and from that, I think as we still need to do some enabling environment to make sure that it can be taken over and run on its own. But I think in the sense of this research is can be served as what do you call the research on living lab that we do. It's actually the bridging stage, and also something that the because it's learning and we don't know, again, that's uncertainty, so we really work around the uncertainty and to find out together. And yeah, from Enrekang, of course, the motivation is still strong, but of course, it still required the external input to continue, because the current situation of the local funding, even though the government recognize the importance of it, and also we see some alignment with the institutions, that training institution, but continuing the DFFS from DFFS prototype version 1, we need to continue to the next one, and also to improve based on the additional input we receive from the new elected government. So yeah, we need to continue. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I hope we like to say thank you, but I also like to look. Here we are on our beautiful passport pictures, of course, and here you see also our full contact details, because today we try to give you an overview of the work we are doing. Yeah, what we are doing in Semarang, in Bandung, on our campus here in Velp, in the north of the Netherlands, in Sulawesi, etc., etc. You see, we do represent different disciplinary groups. Yeah, we have a research group, communication, participation, social, ecological learning. We have environmental engineering. We have the social capital group. We are with many, and also at Unit Diponegoro, we see that the involvement of our students is really something we like. Yeah, we like to accommodate it. We try to proceed. So, as last words, don't hesitate contacting us. Yeah. I hope you that we helped you out to understand where we stand at this moment, and we hope to come back to the winner conference with new insights, new experiences, and new activities, bringing our Living Lab research together. Selamat pagi.
Thank you. Selamat sore.
Thank you.
Thank you for all.
Thank you for all.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.